Hello and welcome to what would be GameBabble Live if this was actually live. I'm your host, Jell. Yes, due to numerous complications, this show is actually, pre-recorded today. I don't know if we're gonna keep doing this show or not. Basically, long story short, I did get a new job, but I still have not yet had a chance to talk with the boss about my seemingly flexible hours and if I can keep doing the show that way. And on top of that, though, I got into a little bit of a fender bender last week, and I had to take the car in to get looked at by the insurance company and all that, and that's going down at 1 p.m. today. So with this gigantic traffic jam of things going on, I'm not able to actually be in the studio. But after that Nintendo Direct, do you really think I'm not gonna try to put something out there? Oh no. No. We're doing the show. We are doing GameBabble Live even if I can't be there live, at least this time. On top of that, I've been recovering from like a fever all weekend. Thank goodness for President's Day. I needed another day to rest. Anyway, which is actually when I'm recording this. Friggin' 9 p.m. Monday night. But that's beside the point. We like to kick the show off with the new game releases for this week, what's coming out next week, and what anime are in theaters. So let's get started with that. This week on PlayStation 4, we have Almost There, the platformer, Chromagun VR, Daggerhood, Death End Request, Hacky Zack, Pode, Queen's Quest 2, Stories of Forgotten Past, Rim 9000, Steins Gate Elite Limited Edition, Steins Gate Linear Bounded Phenogram, okay, The Sims 4 Movie Hangout Stuff, Unexplored Unlocked Edition, Farm Together, Hell Warders, Hexamaze, Nier Automata Game of the Yorha Edition, let's see, Anthem, well that explains a lot of things, Dirt Rally 2.0 Digital Deluxe Edition, Koihime Enbu Ryo Rai Rai, which is, that is a 2D fighter with female versions of classic Romance of the Three Kingdoms generals. I've played it before. I know an older version is on Steam. I've got an older version on PS3 that I imported. It's pretty fun. As long as you don't mind the weird pre-rendered sprites. And then, the King of Fighters 97 Global Match Limited Collector's Edition. Which all I can say to that is, what the heck? Why 97? What? I don't understand. No one cares about 97. Everyone cares about 98. 98 and 2002 are like the big ones everyone cares about. 2000 to a lesser degree. Whatever. Those are the new games on PS4 this week. Xbox One, what you got? Xbox One is getting Anthem, Unexplored Unlocked Edition, Aces of the Luftwaffe Squadron, Dirt Rally 2.0 Day 1 Edition, Stellaris, Console Edition, the Lego Movie 2 video game, Trials Rising. Oh wait, no. Wow. Really? Never mind. Cancel that. I overshot myself there. This week, all I'm seeing for Xbox One is Anthem and Unexplored Unlocked Edition. Everything else is next week. Wow, that's... Ooh. Sorry, Xbox One. Moving on, Nintendo Switch this week gets Trine 2 Complete Story, 8-Bit Adventure Steins Gate, Blaze Rush, Dungeon Stars, Steins Gate Elite Limited Edition, I Wanna Fly, Almost There, the platformer, Origami Shadow Edition, Devil Engine, Gigantic Army, Hell Warders, QUBE2, Raining Coins, Rotating Brave, Warplanes, World War II Dogfight, X-Morph Defense, Yume Nikki, Dream Diary, Quest for the Golden Duck, Tier Chains of Valhalla. Let me see something. Gigantic Army. Yes, I do have this on Steam. Gigantic Army is a Cybernator clone. I remember this. This is actually pretty good. Yeah, if you like Cybernator or Assault Suit Lanos, Gigantic Army is one of those kinds of games. 2D side-scrolling mecha pew-pew game. Good times. Moving on, 3DS this week has nothing, and PlayStation Vita this week has Daggerhood. So, that sums up this week. What's coming out next week? Next week on PlayStation 4, we have 8-Bit Invaders, Aces of the Luftwaffe Squadron, Dirt Rally 2.0 Day 1 Edition, Fate Grand Order VR featuring Mashu Curelight, Remy Lore Lost Girl in the Lands of Lore, Stellaris Console Edition, the Lego Movie 2 video game, Trials Rising, and Fimble. Xbox One next week is getting Aces of the Luftwaffe Squadron, Dirt Rally 2.0 Day 1 Edition, Stellaris Console Edition, the Lego Movie 2 video game, Trials Rising, Yonder, the Cloudcatcher Chronicles, and Fimble. Meanwhile, Nintendo Switch next week is getting Darkest Hunter, Aces of the Luftwaffe Squadron, Child of Light Ultimate Edition / Valiant Hearts The Great War Double Pack, Fractured Minds, Rad Rogers Radical Edition, Remy Lore, Lost Girl in Lands of Lore, Trials Rising, The Lost Light of Sisu, Anodyne, Ape Out, Batloon, Constructor Plus, Deltarune Chapter 1, Fimble, Space War Arena, Travis Strikes Again, No More Heroes Additional Content Volume 1 Black Dandelion, that means the ability to play as Shinobu, and VOID, Void. We can spell on this show. 3DS is getting nothing next week, and Vita is getting the King of Fighters 97 Global Match next week. Actually, wait. No, King of Fighters 97 Global Match is this week. Next week, it's getting nothing. Yeah. Okay, that about sums that up. Moving on. To the anime in theaters. As you probably know, Alita Battle Angel is in theaters, and I am hearing surprisingly good reviews about it. Also, apparently at some point they made Final Fantasy 15 episode Arden Prologue. That was only airing at, like, Katsucon, but that happened. Apparently. Moving on, though. What's actually in theaters? Well, today, around 7 p.m., is Mobile Suit Gundam NT. Dubbed only. Good luck finding a theater for it, to be honest. And really, that's about it for anime in theaters this month. Next month, we've got a bit more with Fate Stay Night, Heaven's Feel 2, Lost Butterfly, and the Made in Abyss movie. And then in April, Howl's Moving Castle and Oko's Inn. And then we get back on the Ghibli train in the following month, and we'll see what happens there. But yeah, not a whole lot going on this month anymore. So that sums up our new game releases and what anime are in theaters this week. So yeah, what about what's going to be on the rest of the show? Because, well, we are doing at least a little bit of a show come heck or high water. And remember, if you ever miss the show, just hit up the GameBabble Live archive on YouTube, where we are posting previous episodes, and I will be sure to get this episode up there as well. So, yeah. Rest of the show, we're going to talk about the Nintendo Direct, and some of the exciting things they showed there, why that Direct was just so weebdiculous, as well as talking about Jump Force, and any other interesting video game news that may be floating around out there. But those are definitely my two focuses. So when we get back after the break, we will discuss the Nintendo Direct and talk more about that. And yeah, I think we're gonna have at least a good little bit of a show this week, despite the fact that I'm not there to desperately try to flounder and fill out the show halfway through. It'll still be a good time. So I hope you joined me for more GameBabble Live. Until then, though, it is time to kick you all back to the music. So, well, I cannot see the music list this time. I'm not here. So, whatever song is coming up next is coming up next. Hope you enjoy. And please stay tuned to 89.5 FM KCFV The Wave. Diverse music for your diverse mind. Thank you so much for listening. Enjoy the music. And after a short break, we will be right back with more GameBabble Live. Hello and welcome back to GameBabble Live, your video game news and information show which desperately tries to air every Tuesday from noon to 3 p.m. here on 89.5 FM KCFV The Wave. Diverse music for your diverse mind. I'm your host, Jell, and I'm not here at the moment, but that's not going to stop me from doing the show. So, last week, immediately after the show, because of course, Nintendo, you can't give me good content when I'm floundering now, can ya? Nintendo did a surprise Nintendo Direct. Now, I know some people were disappointed by it because they were expecting some big announcement, but I get why it was the way it was. It was a surprise Direct. Nintendo likes to do these where they announce the Direct the day before. Those are usually ones that don't have very big announcements, but I do like them. Obviously, the big thing Nintendo wanted to get out of the way was say, hey, here's the rest of the stuff we have coming for 2019. And that was one of the most important things to take away from that Direct. Every single game they showed is coming out before the end of the year. So, those are all guaranteed 2019 releases. They're all coming soon. You know, there's not a whole lot of delay here. Showing people what to be excited for the rest of 2019. Obviously, they're saving their big guns and the stuff that's going to come out like next year for E3. Hence why there was no Bayonetta 3. But we did have Astral Chain, and I am very excited for that. But one of the things that people found to be very peculiar about this recent Nintendo Direct was the fact that it was very Japanese. And this didn't bother me. If you've been listening to this show, then you know that very Japanese is my modus operandi. Those are the games I play. Those are the games I focus on. So I was very happy with that Direct. But a lot of people were saying, is there really that much demand for weeb stuff? To which the answer is yes. Yes, there is. Even more so in Japan. If you tuned in last week, you might have a hint of why this might be. But for those of you who aren't familiar, well, the Nintendo Directs we get in America are actually identical to the ones that they have in Japan. They're the same, except for, like, a few exclusive games. Like, there's a Doraemon. There's a Doraemon Story of Seasons game coming out in Japan, so we didn't get a trailer for that. But aside from a few exclusives, our Directs are pretty much identical. And that's very important to note. Because, you see, Japan is... It's going to sound strange, but Japan is in desperate need of Japanese games. How so? Why so? Well, because Sony has abandoned them. And Nintendo is striking while the iron's hot, reminding Japan that Nintendo is the home for homegrown Japanese games. Also, Nintendo has never been good at directly catering to an American audience, so this is for the best. No, seriously, think about it. Usually when Nintendo tries to do something that's very, very American, they do kind of embarrass themselves. So let's talk about what happened there. Well, you see, the PlayStation 4 was a very strange system. It actually launched in America before it launched in Japan. We got it first, like a few months ahead of time. And the PS4... Oh, my friends, that thing launched with less Japanese games than the Xbox One. Yeah, that's right, the Xbox One had more Japanese games at launch than the PS4 did. Well, you can guess how Japan took that. The PS4 did not take off in Japan. And most of the early Japanese PS4 games were either quick and dirty ports of PS3 games or were PS3, Vita, PS4 simultaneous releases, or Vita PS4 simultaneous releases, because, newsflash, the PlayStation Vita was actually successful in Japan, unlike here in America. Then, a little bit after that, Sony actually moved the headquarters of Sony Computer Entertainment to America. They got a new guy to run Sony Computer Entertainment, and Shortly after that, we started to see games getting censored. I made a video on my channel about how I suspected that VR games were getting censored, but my suspicions were not only completely founded, they've been 100% confirmed. First, there was Omega Labyrinth Z being denied its US release. Then there was the new Senran Kagura having to get delayed so they could remove a feature in the locker room section from the US release that has been in every other PlayStation 4 Senran Kagura game. Just not this one. Starting now, this is no longer allowed, and it's going to be in the PC release, or is in the PC release, rather, but not on PS4, not allowed. Starting now, this is too lewd for PS4. And that was pretty striking, but shortly after that, some Japanese indie developers broke their NDAs because they don't care anymore. Some of them were developing visual novels on PS4, Vita, PC, and Switch, and they had to heavily censor the PlayStation 4 version. Vita, it was allowed. Switch, it was allowed. But PS4, they had to have orbital sensor lasers in order to get the games released. Shoot, Nekopara had to be reduced to an E rating on PlayStation 4. So that should give you an idea of the sheer level of censoring that's going on with PS4 games. And that's the thing, that applies to Japan. Japan is being forced to censor Japanese only released in Japan games. On top of all of this, this has completely kneecapped poor Senran Kagura 7. Senran Kagura 7 was going to be the first big budget made for console all-in Senran Kagura game, because Senran Kagura started as sort of a low budget, fan service game. It was on a lot of portables, and after the success of Estival Versus on PS4, they were like, hey, let's make one exclusively for PS4. Let's really take advantage of the system's capabilities. Let's remake things from the ground up. Let's do something worthy of the new fame our series has found. And so they've been working on this for a few years, but now these new censorship rules are in place, and the guy in charge has said, we have had to completely change the entire game concept and design from this game, from Senran Kagura 7. We've had to completely change it. And that is, well, that's surprising, and disconcerting. So, on top of all of these things, this is Sony abandoning their Japanese audience. And really, think about the AAA games you've been seeing on PS4. Think about what Sony's been advertising. It's been Western games. Outside of Sekiro, which I don't know if that's PS4 exclusive or not, and, kind of Kingdom Hearts 3, but that's certainly not PS4 exclusive, it's been nothing but Western games. It's been a big push for Western games. Even, what's the name of that game? Tsukijima or something? The new game from Sucker Punch. The samurai game. That's American, too. That's Western, too. Maybe it's European, I'm not sure, but it's a Western game. They're all Western. Everything Sony's been pushing has been Western games. Maybe that's why this Nintendo Direct felt so weird to so many people, is because they're not used to seeing Japanese game after Japanese game after Japanese game the way this Direct went down. But for some of us, this is what we're looking for. And more than that, the Nintendo Switch is not only successful in Japan, it's pretty much made with the Japanese lifestyle in mind, because people have found that Japan is more in favor of portable systems. One of the best examples of this is Monster Hunter. Monster Hunter came out back on PS2 and no one gave a crap. Not even in Japan. It did okay. They did 2 Monster Hunters on PS2. Monster Hunter did not take off until they ported it to PSP, and it was a garbage PSP port. The control scheme was not, it was like a straight port from PS2, except the control scheme is not designed for the PlayStation, for the PSP at all. people had to use a control mechanism they called claw hand, so they could use the D-pad and the analog nub at the same time. It was a complete disaster. But people learned to play with this uncomfortable, bizarre control scheme in order to play Monster Hunter on the go. And keep in mind, the PSP version had no online play. That was local system link play only. And that was what put Monster Hunter on the map. Monster Hunter went from nothing to one of Capcom's biggest franchises after a crap PSP port. A crap PSP port. That was what put Monster Hunter on the map. So, yeah. Portables matter in Japan. And that's what we're dealing with here. The PlayStation Portable was way more successful in Japan, and the DS was also successful. Same thing with the 3DS and Vita. The Vita's still doing well, and that's right. That was the other thing. When Sony moved their headquarters to America, they got that new president, he canceled Vita games. He said, we are not producing Vita games anymore, even though Japan was still on board with the Vita. They still were buying and making Vita games. A bunch of Vita games got canceled. Hey, guess where they're going? Starts with a Nintendo, ends with a Switch. Yeah, that's what we're at right now. So when Nintendo made the Switch, they realized that portables were the way to go in Japan. But America, we like our big screen TVs and our HD consoles. So they did this hybrid thing that, I mean, Japan likes consoles. They just get more play out of their portables. And don't forget that there are a ton of Japanese games that were released on PS3, PS4, Vita that allowed you to transfer your saves between them by uploading them to a server. That was a thing. And so this is like the Switch is like an expanded version of that, but without having to buy the game twice and upload to a server. It's just, hey, you're portable, you bring it home, it turns into a console. It is the perfect game system for the Japanese lifestyle. Portables being very successful in Japan. Sorry, brain's a little scattered. They're very successful in Japan because the most downtime a lot of Japanese people have is on long train commutes to work. Which, so there's a bunch of people playing their Nintendo Switches and their Vitas on the train. And so that's it's something that fits with the Japanese lifestyle. But at the same time, yes, mobile phones are very, very much also big in Japan. They are encroaching on the video game market. So what do you think Nintendo was doing there? That Nintendo Direct was Nintendo saying, hey, people of Japan, you want Japanese games, you friggin' got them. Sony's abandoned you. We're the new home of Japanese video games. And oh, by the way, you think you're you think your mobile device, you think that's some good stuff, right? Well, my good friend, let me show you what you can do on the Switch. Because also, a lot of those Switch games are games that would be very hard to do on a mobile device, maybe not technically, as I know the Switch's power is very, very similar to a modern mobile device. But from a gameplay perspective, those are ones where you want a gamepad, you want an analog stick, you want buttons. So they're showing off Astral Chain and Daemon X Machina as a way of going, hey, remember when Japanese video games were real games? Here they are on the go on your Switch as well as at home. So I feel this was a big push by Nintendo to remind Japan of Japanese gaming, of that they do what Sony won't. I don't know. I need to come up with a better one for that. Nintendo does what Sony so dropped the ball on. No one drops the ball like Sony, my good friends. No one. So that is the angle that they are going with the Nintendo Direct. That's why it was very, very Japanese. And like I said, when Nintendo tries to cater to an American audience, to a Western audience, they usually miss the mark. They're usually really behind the times. It's really better if they don't. And honestly, getting AAA Western games on the Switch is definitely a struggle. Because, well, Western developers like to squeeze we like to fully utilize very, very powerful systems. This is why Western games are best on PC, when we could be like, oh sure, it'll run on this hardware, but if you want to see it really in action, you need a top-of-the-line system that isn't even out yet, and take advantage of every single new piece of tech still in the pipeline in order to sell to people that want to show off with their computers. That's sort of the American way. We like our big, beefy computer systems. That's America, that's American, and that's how a lot of Western developers think. We're the ones who are like, the PS4 isn't powerful enough, the PS4 Pro isn't powerful enough, the Xbox One X isn't powerful enough, we need more power. So, asking those same developers to produce a fancy game for the Nintendo Switch is a bit of a big ask. Thankfully, we've seen some developers which are more than capable of that. Whoever's porting id Software's games, the ones who did the Doom and the Wolfenstein ports, they are wizards, and I applaud their work. And if we could convince them to make a Switch exclusive, that would be super cool. But, yeah, no, getting Western developers on board with making fancy Switch games, gonna take a little bit of doing. I'm sure Nintendo's trying, but certainly they won't have anything out for 2019 like that. That's also, of course, why we didn't see Metroid Prime 4. Because, well, they just rebooted development of that. It's not coming out in 2019. So, yeah, they don't have a lot to show there. So, yeah, that's what the deal was with that Direct. That's why it was so weeby, as people like to put it. I personally appreciate that because, yes, I am starving for some fancy Japanese games. We'll talk a little bit more about this after the break, but right now it is time for us to take another break. So please enjoy the music here on 89.5 FM KCFV The Wave. Diverse music for your diverse mind. Thank you so much for listening, and stay tuned for more GameBabble Live-ish. See ya! Hello and welcome back to GameBabble Live, your video game news and information show which tries to air every Tuesday from noon to 3 p.m. here on 89.5 FM KCFV The Wave, diverse music for your diverse mind. Thank you so much for listening. Things are currently up in the air. I have a new actual job, and as such, I'm still working out if I'm going to be able to do the show. I will keep you posted on the YouTube channels as best I can. Remember, we've got a GameBabble YouTube channel for the show that I desperately need to update, as well as the GameBabble Live archive, where we put up the old episodes, well, the episodes of this show after I finish doing them for your listening pleasure with MP3 links to a Google Drive. So, hope you enjoy those. Currently, I am getting my car looked at after getting into a fender bender, so I may not be in the studio at the moment, but that's not going to stop me from trying to do the show. So, before the break, we talked about the Nintendo Direct and how overwhelmingly Japanese it was. But how about the stuff actually shown? What did I think? Well, obviously, I'm quite excited. Number one, hooray, Super Mario Maker 2. Yo, Super Mario Maker was a good time. Probably one of the most successful and popular games on the Wii U. People really liked it on the Wii U. So seeing it get a Switch port is very nice. I hope it still has some good touchscreen controls. It looks like they're desperately Definitely trying to make it very playable with, like, the actual gamepad. But I do hope it has good touchscreen building controls, because, yeah, on the Wii U, building with the touchscreen, very, very nice, very quick, very intuitive, very, very good. So I hope it still lets me do that to the same capacity I could on the Wii U. And I'm wondering how they're going to handle the old stages, because they have such a catalog of stages on the old one that I'd kind of like it if we could continue using those stages, connect to the same stage storage server, but we probably won't. It'll probably be starting over, but either way, Super Mario Maker was one of the most successful games on Wii U. It's one that people still play today, because people love playing stupid hard Mario stages and getting frustrated at them. So, it's wonderful that it's getting a Switch release, and we've all been wondering when that would happen. It's also nice that they now have a Super Mario 3D World theme with the cat outfits and everything. Now, if only Super Mario 3D World would get a Switch port. I'm rooting for that mostly because Super Mario 3D World actually had multiple playable characters. So, if we were going to get a game with, like, Daisy and Waluigi in it, Super Mario 3D World would be the best bet, and I'm really hoping they do that. Moving on from that, Rune Factory 4 and 5 are actually bigger news than you may realize. For those of you unfamiliar, Rune Factory is, it's basically Harvest Moon mixed with fantasy RPG. So it's a farming simulation, but instead of livestock, they're monsters that you capture and raise and breed. And you could also, like, go into dungeon and fight enemies and do things that way. It was literally a fantasy spin-off, and they had been made by Neverland, which is the company behind the Lufia series. But I hear that some of the people involved, one of the companies, not sure which one, involved with Rune Factory had actually gone out of business a while ago. So we thought that Rune Factory was done. There were going to be no more Rune Factories. So the announcement that, oh, by the way, here's an enhanced version of Rune Factory 4 and Rune Factory 5 is on the way, kind of a big deal to Rune Factory fans. Now, I personally am not a big Rune Factory fan. I've only poked at the series just a little tiny bit, but I am very, very interested in these Switch releases. I'll probably pick them up. I look forward to seeing how they turn out. Daemon Ex Machina getting they have a demo up and they're taking a survey. I have not had a minute to sit down and play that demo. So I can't tell you too terribly much, but I can safely say, wow, does that look really Armored Core? Armored Core 4 specifically looks like a touched up version of that. But I think they're trying to do like Armored Core Monster Hunter? I don't know. Looks very fun. I need to sit down with the demo. I have not had a chance to do that yet, thanks in large part to getting sick. That was very exciting. I would say the show stealer for a lot of us was Astral Chain. Astral Chain, new action game from Platinum Games, where you play a male or female police officer in a cyberpunk future, chained to a transforming bio-monster thing. It's like a police bio-monster that transforms between being a big hulking monster and like a rideable dog thing, and you have a laser sword, and it looks like a bunch of cool anime BS, and I am completely on board with it. Like, yeah, it looks like melodramatic anime stupid crap. That's my jam. Give me in there. It looks flashy. It looks fun. I am completely on board with this. So those were definitely the games to steal the show. Also, Tetris 99, which launched, which of course everyone laughs and goes, oh geez, Tetris Battle Royale, because yes, it's Tetris Battle Royale, but oh buddy, that game. We will get back to that in just a minute. If I had to say the biggest disappointment of the show, for me, ironically, is for many people the only one they care about. And that's that they announced an HD remake of Link's Awakening, the Game Boy Classic. And the entire reason that one disappoints me is the visual style. Look, it doesn't look bad, and if it was a new top-down Zelda game with that visual style, I would be completely on board with it. The problem is that Link's Awakening has such a beautiful and timeless art style that I think remaking it is utterly pointless. I have absolutely no qualms with saying that, personally, I think the Game Boy game looks better. I don't like the remake art style as much as the Game Boy art style. And it's not that I don't like the remake art style. Again, if it was an actually new game, then I would totally be on board with it, because it would be something new, it'd be something fresh, something I hadn't played before. I'd really want to play that. I would love a brand new top-down Zelda game with that art style. But it's not. It's Link's Awakening. And I can play a better version of Link's Awakening because I already own it and have owned it for years. It's on my Game Boy. And it's better because it looks better. And I don't get it. And it's not that they couldn't remake Link's Awakening. I'd be completely on board with a remake of Link's Awakening. But if you're gonna remake Link's Awakening, you should have gone further. Like, just do more. Like, give it like a cel-shaded anime art style like the opening sequence. Maybe actually, as much as I hate to say this, maybe actually give it a 3D Ocarina of Time style view or something. Just do something more, because right now, I'm looking at that Link's Awakening remake, and I'm like, why would I ever play this? I could just play the original. And it is sort of the other side of the looking glass, isn't it? Because a lot of times when a remake comes out, we complain because it isn't faithful enough to the original, and the response we get is that if you wanted to play the original, then just play the original rather than the remake. And in this case, and we'd be like, yeah, but in this case, it's like, no, that's very true. I don't understand why I would ever play this remake. I don't get the point of it. And a lot of it hinges on the price tag. Because I argued about this with a friend, and he was like, oh yeah, and he like gave me tons of crap, because it's like, how can you be so whiny, this is gonna be cheaper than trying to play the original Game Boy game, which I called BS on, because no. He's like, how many hundreds of dollars does Link's Awakening go for? And I'm like, it doesn't. Like, look it up. Link's Awakening, they produced a bajillion copies of it. You could get a copy of Link's Awakening on your Game Boy nice and easy. It does not go for large sums of money. And, he was like, well, then you'd have to buy a Game Boy. He tried to come up with all these things, and he said, I think it really looks good for a budget title. And I was like, there's the difference. You're assuming this is a budget title, which I would agree. If this was a budget release, I wouldn't have any beef with it, because, whatever, it's kind of neat, I guess. But I have a feeling this is going to be a full-priced release, which I understand. If you're going to go through the trouble of remaking it, from the ground up, it does kind of deserve to be a full-priced release, but they should have remade it harder. What I'm looking at there, I just go, why would I play this instead of the original Game Boy game? I just don't get it. I think the Game Boy game looks better. The pixel art in it is too timeless and beautiful. In a weird way, making it high-res, making it high-definition 3D makes it look less detailed, which he grilled me about this one. I couldn't figure out a way to better describe it, and I would say density. It's about information density. Because when you're on such a low-resolution screen, every single pixel counts. You can have way too many pixels and it clutters the screen. You can have way too few and it looks really, really barren and dry. And Link's Awakening, they nailed it. They nailed the way it looked. They used every single pixel perfectly. It looks beautiful. It looks gorgeous. I mean, they tried to make it look like A Link to the Past. They tried to make it look like a Super Nintendo game on the Game Boy, and they succeeded. And it's beautiful. But now you take that and you take, cripes, what is the resolution for the Game Boy? I think it's like 180 pixels by 162 pixels. Don't quote me on that, but it's something that small. Now, you blow that up to 1080p, and all of a sudden, you know, you're like, okay, well, let's remake all these sprites in 3D, and they all look really, really, really overly simple. And you go, yeah, it's accurate, but now they all look overly simple because the information and detail density is so stretched out and spread out. The best example of this is Link's face. That's probably a lot of people's biggest complaint with the game, graphically, is when they look at Link's face. He's just got those two little dots for eyes and a little nubby nose. Well, that's all he had in the Game Boy game. Yeah, but we're talking about this tiny little, like, 10 by 10 pixel block for Link's head, so the fact that they were even able to get eyes on there was an incredible amount of detail. Now, Link's face in HD is larger than the size of is a higher resolution than the size of the entire original Game Boy screen, and all he's got is a nubby nose and two little eyes and no mouth, and it doesn't look right. The information density is too spread out. That's the best way I can describe it. The remake, it looks barren and bland and simplistic, and you can go, yeah, well, the Game Boy game looked simplistic, yeah, but that was due to hardware limitations rather than anything else. For the hardware, Link's Awakening was gorgeous and heavily detailed. And that's one of the other things. I've heard some people go, yeah, well, the original game wasn't exactly known for its graphics. And I said, screw you, yes, it was. Like, I actually heard someone make that argument. They were like, you know, someone said these graphics don't look that right. Yeah, well, the original wasn't really known for its graphics. Yes, it was. It's a gorgeous looking game. It's one of the best looking Game Boy games. It was Nintendo really flexing their muscle and showing what they could do on the Game Boy hardware. It looks really close to A Link to the Past. It looks close to a Super Nintendo game, but on an 8-bit little Game Boy screen. Yes! Yes, the original Link's Awakening was known for its graphics. It is a beautiful game. Don't give me that. Do not even start to give me that. So yes, I do feel the original was known for its graphics, and I do feel that the remake looks way too simplistic. Now, I'm not saying that's bad. If you like the way it looks, go ahead, get it. But to me personally, I'm like, this is the biggest disappointment of the show, which was also because I had no expectations. I wasn't expecting anything going into this. So, the disappointment was you see that awesome anime intro for Link's Awakening, and you're like, oh, yeah, and then you see the actual graphics, you're like, oh, I wish Nintendo could actually do something about that. I think Link's Awakening deserves better than what it's getting, but it's fine. It's nice. So, yeah, that would be my opinion of this Nintendo Direct and that Link's Awakening. So good times being had there. So, I think we are going to take another break, and then when we get back, we will talk about Tetris 99, and then following that, I will tell you about Jump Force. So, please stay tuned for all of that. Until then, though, time for us to take a break, so I'm going to kick you back to the music, or rather, the technicians over at 89.5 FM KCFV The Wave will program it to kick you back to the music right now, because I am out getting my car looked at after a very annoying fender bender. Yeah. So they're going to do that. Thank you so much for listening. Please stay tuned, though, to 89.5 FM KCFV The Wave, diverse music for your diverse mind. Thank you so much for listening. Here's some music. When we get back, we're going to talk Tetris 99, and then we'll talk about Jump Force. Until then, though, here's music. Catch you after the break. Hello and welcome back to GameBabble Live, your video game news and information show which desperately tries to air every Tuesday from noon to 3 p.m. here on 89.5 FM KCFV, the wave, diverse music for your diverse mind. I'm your host, Jell. I say desperately tries to because I've just gotten a new job, and so I'm not sure if I'll be able to keep doing the show. I'll keep you posted on the GameBabble YouTube channels. We have one for the show and one for the radio show, which... yeah, if you've missed out on any episodes, just head on over to the GameBabble Live archive, and you'll be able to listen to them there, either on YouTube or hit up the Google Drive link to download an MP3 of the latest episodes. So, anyway, yes, currently I am getting my car looked at. I got into a little bit of a fender bender the other week, and it is getting looked at, and so I can't be here at the moment, but that's not going to stop me from talking about games when we had such an incredible Nintendo Direct. Most of all, we had the utter bafflement that is Tetris 99. Tetris 99 is a free-to-download Tetris Battle Royale game for Switch, with no microtransactions. Basically, this is Nintendo's way of being like, oh, hey, paying for our garbage online service is actually worth something. It's a very, very bare-bones game. There's no single player, there's no offline, there's no multiplayer. It's just, you pop in, you play Tetris against 98 other player, 99-player Tetris. It is literally Tetris Battle Royale, and it's going over incredibly well. I freaking love it. Because, you see, one of the things that always drove me completely up the wall when the term casual was coined was this idea that puzzle games were for casuals. Let's make one thing clear. The whole vilification of the idea of casual gamers was a result of game journalists not being able to admit that the Wiimote was a busted piece of crap. I'm not kidding. See, prior to the Wii coming out, the term casual gamer wasn't even in the lexicon. No one even used the term. Then the Wii comes out, and Nintendo says, we are marketing towards casual gamers. We want to market to the people that aren't super serious about gaming because they're already completely wrapped up in the 360 and PS3 and they've abandoned us, but we can, we're still charming these other gamers who aren't that heavy into gaming, trying to bring more people into gaming. And people were like, okay, that's cool, until Wii games started being complete garbage, and they were very simplified, and there were a lot of really crappy Wii games. And rather than people going, wow, the control in all these is really simplified and bad and based on waggling a controller around, I wonder if that's because the controller is a poorly designed piece of garbage. They said, no. It must be because they're designed for casual gamers. And so, rather than blaming the controller, which was the actual culprit because Nintendo literally put the Wiimote together backwards, they instead opted to blame the casual gamers, leading to this vilification of the idea of the casual gamers, leading to just tons of hatred and everyone trying to declare themselves a hardcore gamer because they didn't want to get lumped in with those filthy casuals, and it caused a whole mess and a lot of stupidity, and the real truth was that no one wanted to admit that the Wiimote was a busted piece of crap. And keep in mind, I'm saying Wiimote, not motion control, because motion control was not a bad idea. There was a ton of potential with motion control. And if you're wondering whatever happened to motion control, the answer is virtual reality, because that is just motion control reaching its true form. I mean, virtual reality is just, the head tracking. You're controlling the camera with the motion of your head. Virtual reality, by its very nature, is motion control. Then you have the actual motion controllers. They're tracking you one-to-one, and that's opening up all sorts of fun gameplay possibilities, like I told y'all years ago, back with the PlayStation Move, which, as much as I freaking hate Sony with a deep, burning passion, I gotta give them credit. The PlayStation Move worked. It worked well. It's the right way to design a motion controller, aside from the terrible button layout, and that continues to be proven right with the PlayStation VR. So, the problem was that the Wiimote was a busted piece of crap, but no, we're gonna blame the casuals. We're gonna blame the casuals, and so, all of a sudden, all these genres started getting lumped in with the casuals, and puzzle games was one of them. And that drove me insane, because back in the 90s, puzzle games were some of the most hardcore of hardcore games. Mostly because a lot of them were stuck in Japan and didn't come to America, and seemed very obtuse and strange, and took a certain level of game appreciation and dedication to really enjoy a puzzle game. But, these days, puzzle games are for casuals. Puzzle games are easy. They're baby games. Yeah, and now Tetris 99 comes out. I've been meaning to make a video about the 90s and the character-driven, competitively based puzzle game, because that was actually a thing. Basically, Puzzle Fighter, yeah, you remember Super Puzzle Fighter 2 Turbo? That was actually jumping on a bandwagon of just, like, hundreds of games like that, where you had the characters doing little attack animations at one another while you played two-player competitive puzzle games. But now we don't even need to do that, because Tetris 99 is there to put boots in butts where puzzle games are concerned. And this makes me very happy. Because, at first you're like, oh, well, okay, fine, Tetris Battle Royale, haha, funny. Then you actually get in there, you start playing, and you start realizing how serious things get. You desperately try to last to the end. And then you go on Twitch, you start watching some really good Tetris players like Kevin DDR and Tafo, and you start to realize, oh, wait a second, there is such a thing as hardcore Tetris play. There are Tetris Grandmasters, and they are very good at Tetris. Now, the way Tetris 99 works, like I said, very simplistic. All it has is it tracks your stats, and it lets you play online. So, you pick online, it fills it out with 99 players, and you play Tetris, and then use the right stick to choose who you're targeting. Because the thing is, as you make line clears and T-spins and the whatnot, T-spin being an advanced Tetris strategy where you spin a T-block into an opening. It's hard to describe, but when you see it, you'll kind of half get it. It's kind of tricky. But when you actually see the game in action, you'll know what I mean. But basically, as you clear more than one line in Tetris, it sends garbage blocks to various opponents. You use the right stick to select what kind of opponents you want to target. Now, you don't target individually. That would be ludicrous, especially with the high speed Tetris actually goes at. Yes, Tetris is a very fast game. The serious Tetris players use the instant drop a lot, and they build their walls up really, really fast. Tetris is very much a speed game. So you don't really have time to select individually. No, you can let it choose randomly who you're going to target. You can target the people who have taken out the most people, those that are the closest to being taken out, or those that are targeting you. And you'll have little yellow lines pointing at you, like laser sights, whenever you're being targeted. And if you are being targeted, and like there's a bunch of nuance, like the game does not explain all this, there's a bunch of nuance to it where as you take more people out, you gain badges and you do more and more damage, but it puts more and more of a target on your head, and the more people you have targeting you, the stronger your attacks get. And if you are specifically countering people that are targeting you, then you get even more of a damage boost. So there's like a bunch of factors to how the garbage is spread out amongst the different players. It's kind of nuts. So you're targeting all these different players. You're targeting these different people. Everyone's fighting one another, throwing garbage around, and you're trying to last until the end. And of course, it's playing like a remix of the classic Tetris theme that gets more and more frantic the further you get in. It starts out pretty nice. Then after you're in the final 50, then it gets much more upbeat. And then the last 10, it gets, it kind of turns into Flight of the Bumblebees. And it just gets nuts. And I've been watching Twitch streams of Grandmaster Tetris players playing the game, and they are nuts. Like, you might be able to eke out a first place every now and then in Tetris 99, but these people, they are getting like 75% win rates. They have hundreds of coming in first games, to hundreds of victory royales. It is nuts. And it's taken off pretty well. There's tons and tons of people playing it right now. I mean, it helps that due to the nature of Tetris, due to the fact that it doesn't need to update everyone super fast, that, lag is not an issue. It just needs to send garbage when it's time to send garbage and slowly update the other 98 players' fields as their Tetris blocks come down. Lag is not really an issue. So, yeah, you have 99 players from all over the world playing Tetris simultaneously against one another, and it's pretty awe-inspiring. And I love it. I love the fact that we now have a serious competitive puzzle game like this. And it's just such a delight. Like, there was one guy, Tafo, who was commenting on this, how, his jam, his thing he plays is Tetris. And he can't really brag about that. Everyone's talking about the video games they play, and we're playing Apex Legends, we're playing PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds. What do you play? Oh, I play Tetris. It's like, oh, okay. That's a game, but, it's not a serious game. And then you actually see this boy in action. You see this man in action. And, no, he plays Tetris very seriously. He is very good at Tetris. He's good at Tetris. And when you see what good Tetris looks like, that's when you shut up about your whole casual BS. Because, no, important point to make, with the exception of Just Dance, because, Just Dance is a mess. But with the exception of Just Dance, long story, pretty much every game can be played either casually or very, very hardcore. You ever see a speedrun? You ever see competitive Tetris? Apparently there's a documentary out there now about the Tetris Classic, which is a Tetris competition played with the original NES version of Tetris, because it's less forgiving and thus more challenging than newer Tetrises, because newer Tetrises actually have a standardization about them now. There's like a set Tetris rule set that the Tetris company is in charge of to make it an official Tetris game. And some people actually don't like that. There are some who will say that Tetris the Grandmaster 2 is the last good Tetris game, because that was before they put in the standardization, which some people feel makes the game way too easy. With NES Tetris, though, in particular, there's no sliding. Like, there's always, like, that brief moment after the piece lands where you can still slide it around the board before it locks in place. NES Tetris didn't have that. And NES Tetris, the piece drops were completely random. Now, there's, like, a pattern and a algorithm to it to make sure that everyone gets, the pieces you get are semi-random, but they make sure everyone gets the same pieces. This is especially true in Tetris 99. If you look, everyone is getting the same pieces in the same order, which makes sense. That makes it fair. But NES Tetris, it was completely random, and you could just get screwed over by the RNG. So yeah, some people prefer NES Tetris. There's apparently a documentary out there about the people who play competitive NES Tetris, and the Tetris Classic is becoming a thing, and now we have Tetris 99. I'm just happy to see puzzle games that break the stigma that puzzle games are for casual gamers. I like seeing a chance for serious competitive puzzle gameplay on the main stage for everyone to see, just breaking stereotypes and showing what a puzzle game can really be. I'm not particularly good at puzzle games, but I have a soft spot for them. I've always been like sort of a fan of them. And so when puzzle games went from obscure, hardcore, weird things you had to import from Japan for the really good ones to casual games, I got really salty about it. So I'm very happy to see something like Tetris 99 come around like this. As an interesting side note, Tetris 99 is made by Arika, the fine folks who make Street Fighter EX. They have been making Tetris games in Japan for a while. They made Tetris the Grandmaster 1, 2, and 3, which are considered the best Tetris games, at least Grandmaster 2. Arika is one of the premier Tetris game developers. And I think this is great because, of course, they are also in charge of Fighting EX Layer, and it is wonderful that they get to somehow make some money off of this instead of having to rely entirely on Fighting EX Layer, that poor freaking game. It's a great fighter, but yeah, not going to keep the company afloat. On that note, it just got an update. Fighting EX Layer has had some balance tweaks released, as well as the gold and silver costumes for Palamperna and Volcano Rosso. And yeah, we've still got those 3 DLC characters on the horizon. I wonder if there's any way they could port that to Switch. I'll double dip if they put it on Switch. Anyway, I believe that sums up my discussion about Tetris 99. So we are going to kick it back to the music. Then after this break, we will talk about Jump Force, the infamous Shonen Jump big anime crossover fighting game, which, oh egad, I've never felt so sorry for a game. There's a lot more to it than just being good or bad. And I want to discuss that after the break. So please stay tuned to 89.5 FM KCFV The Wave, diverse music for your diverse mind. But until then, here's some music, and we will be back after a break with more GameBabble Live. Thank you so much for listening. Hello and welcome back to GameBabble Live, your video game news and information show which airs every Tuesday from noon to 3 p.m., or at least tries to. I've recently gotten a job, and as such, I still need to do some talking to see if I'm going to continue doing the show. I'll keep you updated on the YouTube channels, but things are still up in the air, and currently, I'm getting my car looked at, because I got into a fender bender, so this is all pre-recorded. Not exactly GameBabble Live now, is it? But that's not going to stop me from doing this show. Oh, no. No, I have way too much to talk about. Though we are going to wrap the show up a little bit early this week. This is going to be the last segment. But I do want to talk about Jump Force. This past week, 3 games, 2.5 games, however you want to count it, came out that were relatively big. We had Crackdown 3. We had Jump Force, and we kind of sort of had Anthem. It was like the early release thing. Regardless, Crackdown 3 has been getting some I've only picked up Jump Force. Crackdown 3 has been getting some interesting coverage. A lot of people are a lot of journalists seem disappointed in it, but a lot of just regular people seem to be perfectly okay with Crackdown 3. So maybe it just turned out all right, but not as good as people hoped. I've heard literally nothing about Anthem, but I guess the public release hasn't happened, but no one I follow is streaming that game, and I have one friend who is playing it right now. I have not asked him what he thinks of it. Last time he played the beta and said it was okay. And then there's Jump Force. Jump Force being the latest big Shonen Jump crossover fighting game, meaning that it features characters from a bunch of Shonen Jump properties. So, Dragon Ball, One Piece, Naruto, Hunter x Hunter, Yu-Gi-Oh!, City Hunter, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, Fist of the North Star, Saint Seiya, and more are all represented in this game. Rurouni Kenshin even. Even the Dragon Quest manga, Dino Daiboken, showed up at the very end. And even My Hero Academia and Black Clover get a character in there. We've got Deku, and we've got the main guy from Black Clover. Asta's his name, I think? So, bunch of characters from a bunch of popular manga franchises all crossing over, and you get to create your own original character as well, and it's a big old crossover fighting game, and it has not been well received. The reviews have been absolutely abysmal. People are just hating on the game, talking about what a terrible dumpster fire it is, and how just absolutely abysmally awful it is, and I have never felt so bad for a game. Because I picked it up, and I'm going to tell you right now, I saw a post on Game FAQs that perfectly summed it up. This game, Jump Force, gets everything wrong. The only good parts are the combat, characters, and create a character, which are awesome and are the whole reason I keep playing the game. Now, wait a second. What kind of game is this? What kind of game is Jump Force? It's a fighting game. So, the combat, characters, and character creation as well, I guess, that's the whole game, isn't it? So, if that's awesome, isn't the game awesome? And yet, this perfectly sums up the situation. When you actually get to the fighting, to the combat, to actually playing the game, Jump Force, I would say, is actually one of the freaking best anime arena fighters of this generation. And I'm not backing down from that one. I'm really feeling how this game plays. But everything else about it is such an overwhelming trash fire that it completely blocks out people's ability to see that there's a pretty decent fighting game in there. And I can see exactly what happened. I would bet money that what happened was the fine folks at Spike Chunsoft were developing a perfectly decent little arcade arena fighter, and then halfway through development, some suits came in and said, make it more like Xenoverse. Because, yes, it's desperately trying to be Xenoverse. Dragon Ball Xenoverse, the sort of fighty MMO-y thing, yeah, it's desperately trying to be that, and all the parts that are Xenoverse-esque, other than being able to create your own character, don't freaking work, like, at all. See, first of all, when you start the game up for the first time, brace yourself, because it's time for a big, long, stupid, unskippable cutscene. You have to watch the intro, you have to create a character, and then eventually, after long, terrible, unskippable cutscene after unskippable cutscene, you finally get to the lobby, which is the main menu, which is the worst part of the game. I repeat, the main menu is the worst part of the game. Why? Well, it's this big old online lobby that's way too big for its own good, making it actually quite cumbersome to select the options you want. It takes forever to load, and it was never intended to have as many characters running around in it as there will be. If you're connected to the internet, the frame rate in the main menu is garbage. It looks terrible. It is a pain to run around the main menu. And it actually kind of gets worse because, like, earlier today, I was like, oh, hey, I've just completed this chapter. I need to go I need to go see if there are, I need to go see if there are, any new costumes available, because I saw the female Saint Seiya outfits look really awesome in this game. They look valiant as all heck. And I was like, I need those. So I went out to, like, go to one of the shops, and as I'm running towards the shop, it triggers another unskippable cutscene. And then as I'm running towards the next shop, because the shops are divided up into 3 different areas with 3 different sets of items. So, there's the Dragon Ball shop, the One Piece shop, and the Naruto shop. And then as I'm running to the next one, I trigger another stupid, long, unskippable cutscene. So I'm constantly triggering these unskippable cutscenes. Thankfully, there's a patch coming to fix the load, to, shorten the load times and, make the cutscenes skippable. But as of right now, the launch version, the load times are stupid and the cutscenes are long, and there's, like, a load time before and after every single cutscene. And that's the problem. And the main menu, like I said, the main lobby menu has a ridiculously long load time. It is Sonic 06 bad. There are so many excessively lengthy load times. And I think I know what part of the problem is. They're using Unreal Engine, and I don't think they're letting you see the game until all the textures load in. I say this because earlier I had completed a mission and I hit a button on my controller while it was still at 90% loading, and I heard it, like, confirm a menu. I started hitting buttons, and I was able to navigate menus and play the game while it was still only 90% loaded, and I still had to wait, like, a full minute before it would let me see the game. And I'm like, huh? So I could play it, I just couldn't see it, because it had a big loading screen in front of me. And it's like, okay, something is very, very, very wrong with this game, and the way the loading screens are is terrible, because like, if they deign to give you a percentage, it'll say, like, oh, this is 8% loaded, and then it'll skip to 65% loaded, and then 80, and then 90, 98, 99, and it just, the load times are stupidly long. Like, it is a legitimate problem. And even, like, the character select screen is bad, because instead of giving you a traditional fighting game grid, they give you a carousel. You know, you're just scrolling from left to right on, like, a single bar. And while you're doing that, it's trying to load the characters to preview them for you, but that will cause the game to hiccup and glitch and pause to try to load while you're trying to flip through the characters. And I'm like, this is a poorly thought out character select screen. It's actually kind of similar to the one from Deadly Arts, but not quite as terrible. Like, this is a poorly thought out character select screen. So the character select is bad. The main menu is bad, and the story mode is terrible. The voice acting is Japanese only, and people do go, yo, what the heck, why is it Japanese only? I can tell you why it's Japanese only. Not only would it cost more money to dub it, and even though this looks like people mistake this for a AAA game, it's actually quite low budget, I think. There's also the fact that all of these characters are dubbed by different companies. They would not be able to get all the voices back. Okay, fine. We could get the cast for Dragon Ball, but can we get the cast, can we get Yugi? Can they hire Dan Green? Can they hire the original ADV dub voice for Ryo Saiba from City Hunter? Can they rehire the... didn't Anime Works do Rurouni Kenshin? Could they rehire those voices? Would they want to rehire? It's a complete mess when it comes to trying to dub this game. And there's a lot of voice acting going on, too. But, yeah. The story mode is terrible. Japanese only. Writing, bare bones basic. Most obvious plot, oh, hey, anime characters are invading the real world, and there are evil cubes that are making people evil. We have to defeat the bad guys and collect the evil cubes. Oh no, you were accidentally shot by Frieza. Here, have a cube. Yay, now you're an anime character too. Help us fight the bad guys. That's the plot. and everything they try to do with the plot is terrible. The character models, most of the cutscenes are just character models standing around talking to one another. And it just makes them look bad. Like, people look at this game and they go, this game looks terrible, it has terrible character models. And I'm like, no, it looks great in motion. Not in motion, in combat, in battle. Because the character models are designed to punch and scream and look angry and determined. And when they're doing that, they look great. When you're trying to make them show any other emotions other than angry and determined, they look like trash. They look terrible. It does not work. The whole thing falls apart. Like, when they're just standing there, they look so bad. But they look fine in motion. They look fine when you're fighting. Because, yeah, the whole aesthetic for the game. And this is actually one of the things I find entertaining about it. The whole aesthetic is they want to make it look like an American Hollywood blockbuster. So it's anime characters, but they're all rendered semi-realistically while trying to keep their visual style. So it's like, they look like, you know, One Piece and Naruto and Dragon Ball characters, but they have actual skin texture with skin pores and veins and, like, oil, and their clothes wrinkle, and it looks weird, but at the same time, I appreciate what they tried to do. I think it's actually kind of neat looking. And this goes with the overused motion blur and gratuitous particle effects and the way everything's lighted and shaded to really make it look like some kind of crazy Hollywood blockbuster. And that's actually like the musical style they went with as well, is epic orchestral music, which normally I'd be a little salty about because everyone uses epic orchestral music because they think that's just the best music to use for friggin' everything. But in this case, it really fits with the theme and the aesthetic of trying to be a big budget Hollywood blockbuster version of friggin', I don't know, Shonen Jump crossover fighter. It's goofy, but yeah, like, the barely animated unskippable cutscenes are terrible, the load times are terrible, the lobby is terrible, and having the lobby is pointless, because unlike Dragon Ball Xenoverse, which tried to be Dragon Ball Monster Hunter, where you team up with a bunch of people against, you know, against big enemies, and you fight and you take them out and you work together, so there's like a point to hanging out and meeting up in a lobby. With this one, the only online play is one-on-one fights, because the game is just a one-on-one fighter, so it renders the lobby completely pointless. If they deleted the lobby and replaced it with a quick loading menu, the game would be instantly improved. If they added in an arcade mode, the game would be instantly improved. The problem is that this is an arcade fighting game that they are desperately trying to make into an MMO light, and it's falling flat on its face. And I do think the fighting is good. With one button press, I was able to tell this is way better than J-Stars. This is way better than One Piece Burning Blood. And by the end of the first tutorial, I was like, this is way better than My Hero Academia 1's Justice. I have no qualms with saying that. I say that because as soon as I pushed that button, I was impressed by how quick and responsive the controls are. Which that's the other thing, the controls in the lobby are also terrible. Like, your character has delay on when they start and stop moving, and that doesn't apply in the actual fights. The fights feel fine. But yeah, I threw one punch and I was like, this punch felt good. This felt pretty tight, pretty responsive, had a good impact to it. And when it said, yo, hold up and press square to do high combo, down and square for low combo, it's like, we already have, like, more regular attack options than most games in this genre. One of my biggest beefs with this genre is that you don't have enough normals. A lot of games, it's like you have a basic combo string, and then you have, like, an array of super moves. Jump Force, it actually feels like I have a decent array of normals and options with them. And then my specials don't feel too much like super moves compared to my super. I think it balances out pretty well. Basically, what you got, square button attack string, up square attack string, down square attack string, charge square, air square. I think there's a charge air square. Triangle, charge triangle, air triangle. Think there's a charge air triangle. Circle is throw, X is jump. R1 is block, directions plus R1 to dodge. R2 is charge your energy meter, and it's also what you hold for your specials. R2 plus face button for special moves. L2 is tag, tap to tag, hold to assist, which I know is weird. And L1 is your pursuit / combo breaker button. So those are, and then click in L3 to go into your awakening mode. Those are your basic controls. That's how most of the game works. And it actually feels pretty darn good, especially when you get in there and you start doing a square string and then you hit L2 to tag out. And yeah, it actually feels pretty great. I would say the 3-on-3 format is excessive because there's no way to switch to your second character. You always switch to the next one in line when you tag and when you do assists. So in a weird way, that third character becomes a hindrance because you can't quite skip straight to them. It's like, this would be so much better if it was just one-on-one, so that way you always knew what you were tagging to. Not just that you always knew, but it was always consistent. You didn't have to be like, oh, I have to line them up in this order for it to work right. Should have been 2-on-2, and then, because the third character is just a hindrance, and then that might have sped up the load times as well. But I do think it plays well, and it's so frustrating, because when I see people streaming the game and everyone's making fun of it, all the things they say to make fun of it drive me up the wall, because I hear people go, man, how did they make something like Xenoverse but worse? How do you have a worse combat system than Xenoverse? This combat system's way better than Xenoverse. Not only does it feel better, not only do I feel like I have more attack options and the impact feels better, but it's more than just doing the same attack string over and over and over again. It's more than just the numbers. The numbers don't matter. You can turn off the numbers. You know, it's not just about leveling up. The combat system is absolutely better than Xenoverse. And then, wow, I can't believe they made it worse than J-Stars. I admit I haven't played J-Stars in a very long time, but, no. No, this feels much better. Because I remember being immediately turned off by playing J-Stars and how bad it felt, and this feels really good. And then someone's like, yo, oh man, this would be so much better if it was made by CyberConnect 2, the people who make those Naruto games. Imagine if they made that. And I'm like, they don't make fighters. I'm sorry. Naruto Ultimate Ninja Storm is not a fighting game. It's like a weird boss battle game. I admit I don't like Naruto, so I haven't played much of them beyond the demos, but it did not seem like they had particularly deep combat. They seemed like good games, but they feel like cinematic boss rushes, which is cool. Oh, egad, the presentation on those games is amazing, but it doesn't feel like they have particularly good fighting mechanics. And I'm playing this game, and I'm like, there is potential in these fighting mechanics. This is pretty good. Unfortunately, there's bugs with the fighting mechanics. You know, there are times when I try to throw, and my throw just whiffs. There are times where you'll do an attack string and it'll just kind of miss. And even the developers have said, this is not meant to be taken seriously as a competitive fighting game. And this is the hole that Jump Force has dug for itself. It is a game where with a little bit more focus could have been a good competitive fighting game. But it didn't. It decided to be an anime spectacle fighter. This isn't about the fighting, this is about the spectacle kind of game. And unfortunately, that's where they dropped the ball. They tried to be a big cinematic story mode. They tried to have all the single-player content. And all of the single-player content is garbage. All of the story mode is garbage. All of the look how fancy and flashy we are outside of the combat is garbage. But the combat is actually pretty good. But it has actively snubbed the people who would care about good combat. And the people who this game is marketed to don't want good combat. They want flash, they want flair, they want flashy presentation. And that's where the game drops the ball. The presentation is not flashy. The single-player content that the group they're marketing it to wants is sorely lacking, and the low point of the game, and the good part, the combat, is being ignored. I legitimately feel bad for this game because if it just had a different focus, if it had just tried to be a serious competitive fighting game, it could have been good. Unfortunately, they didn't. They didn't focus on that. They tried to be Xenoverse, and everyone is making fun of it and acting like it's the worst freaking game ever because it did not have the right focus. Because it tried to be a spectacle game, and the spectacle is spectacularly awful. And the actual fighting, which is good, can be safely ignored. What a shame. Anyway, looks like we do have one more segment of GameBabble Live, so please stay tuned after the break for just a little bit more. As I think I completely forgot at the end there, we need to talk about some core values. Oh yes, buddy. We gotta have one more short segment where we talk about what happened with Dead or Alive 6 at EVO Japan. So please stay tuned for that. Until then, I'm going to kick you back to the music here on 89.5 FM KCFV, the Wave Diverse Music for your diverse mind. Thank you so much for listening, and stay tuned for just a little more of GameBabble Live. Hello and welcome back to GameBabble Live here on 89.5 FM KCFV, the Wave Diverse Music for your diverse mind. I'm your host, Jell. And this is GameBabble Live, your video game news and information show, which desperately attempts to air every Tuesday from noon to 3 p.m. Although we are having some minor complications. I got a new job, and I'm currently getting my car looked at because I got into a fender bender, so I can't be here, so this is all pre-recorded, but that's fine. I'll keep you posted on the GameBabble YouTube channels. We got one for the show and one called the GameBabble Live Archive, where you can listen to past episodes of GameBabble Live, just in case you missed them. Anyway, I think it's time we talked about core values. Oh, yes. So, where do we even begin with Dead or Alive 6? So, Dead or Alive. Classic fighting game series known for its sexy female characters, to the point where back when Dead or Alive 3 was being marketed as an Xbox launch title, one of the they had the infamous She Kicks High advertisements. Dead or Alive is known for being pretty explicitly sexual, to the point where more people know Dead or Alive Extreme Beach Volleyball than they do the actual Dead or Alive fighting games. Now, all the time I hear people say, I wish they would make a Dead or Alive game that focused more on being a good fighter rather than on being sexy. Apparently not realizing that you can do both at once, but that was what they tried to do back with Dead or Alive 5. They toned down the sexuality and focused on making a solid fighter with vanilla DOA 5. See, this didn't go over well. No one really noticed the toned down sexuality. The fans got kind of angry about it, and they realized they had completely missed the mark with what they were trying to do with Dead or Alive 5. In fact, originally they weren't even going to make it a serious fighter, but the fans were angry they weren't even going to attempt that. So they tweaked Dead or Alive 5, made it into a serious fighter. It had toned down sexuality, but realizing that didn't work and they were only making money off of swimsuit DLC, they cranked the sexualization up drastically with Ultimate and Last Round to utterly ridiculous degrees, but it was quite delightful. And they supported Dead or Alive 5 for 5 years with just hundreds upon hundreds of pieces of DLC costumes. There's even a free-to-play version you can download, so if you want to check the game out, you can download the free-to-play version, Dead or Alive 5 Core Fighters, right now. It's completely compatible with the full release. I wouldn't bother downloading any DLC for it, just get the full game, but it's a great demo, lets you play online, lets you mess with the training mode. Dead or Alive 5, in the end, was actually a really good fighter. And that was part of the beauty of it. Because it was Dead or Alive. It was kind of the Bikini Beach Babe fighting game, but it was a deep, technical one. And if you don't believe me, download Core Fighters, give it a chance, and you will see, yes, Dead or Alive 5 was really, really good. The big issue with the Dead or Alive series was always that the counter system and stage damage were way too overdone. And Dead or Alive 5 fixed that. They made counters harder to do, drastically reduced the amount of damage they did, but they were still central to the gameplay, but it very much balanced them out. Meanwhile, stage damage was also drastically reduced to being about the strength of a typical throw or a good hard hit. So you still had the stage effect of the stage damage, but it wasn't completely freaking overpowering. And as such, Dead or Alive 5 was actually a really solid fighting game, though a lot of people didn't give it the time of day, and it was technically a last-gen game, and a lot of people said, where's Dead or Alive 6? Which I thought was a bad idea from the beginning, because I was like, that's just going to be a big reset button. You're going to lose, like, a bunch of characters, and in the end, since Dead or Alive always recycles data from the previous entry, you're just going to wind up with an inferior version of Dead or Alive 5. There's no way base Dead or Alive 6 can be as good as Dead or Alive 5. And then Dead or Alive 6 gets revealed, and I was like, friggin' told you so. But on top of that, when they first revealed Dead or Alive 6, they started doing the same song and dance again. They said, we are toning down the sexuality and focusing more on making a serious fighting game. And this was a thing Yohei Shimbori, the guy in charge of the game, said himself. This was not made up by fans. He said it himself, that they were toning down the sexuality, that they were focusing more on the fighting. He said this. Don't try to blame overreacting fans when these were the words out of the horse's freaking mouth. He said this, and it was very obvious from what was shown. And it was very strange, too, because while they were toning down the sexuality, they were cranking up the violence to a degree that made the Japanese players uncomfortable, and they had to put a violence toggle in there. Because now blood spatters against the screen as you punch these women in the face, and it does a big close-up, and you see the face deform and their jaw get dislocated. And it's like, yo, cripes, you want to talk about everything wrong with our American sensibilities in a nutshell? Oh yeah, no, show women being punched in the face and having their jaw dislocated and blood spattering everywhere. That's fine, but having their breasts in a skimpy bikini, that is no good, my friend. Cripes, don't even get me started on Mortal Kombat 11. That's all that in a nutshell. But, so this is what Dead or Alive 6 was looking to be. And it was like, this is really peculiar. And I was like, I'm going to wait until Tokyo Game Show. They're going to do something. Especially because Marie Rose and Honoka need to be in there. They are the most popular characters in Dead or Alive. Japan didn't used to care about Dead or Alive until Marie Rose and Honoka. And those two characters very much go against their new aesthetic. Marie Rose being a very young-looking character, and Honoka being chestier than even the average DOA character. They did a reveal trailer for them and desperately tried to hide Honoka's chest. But sure enough, while other characters seemed smaller than usual, Honoka was her usual self. And things began to get really weird at this point. Because while they were still going, oh, we're toning down the sexuality, we want to focus more on the fighting, they also revealed the Japanese Collector's Edition for Dead or Alive 6, which comes with boob and butt mouse pads and a bed sheet featuring Kasumi and Ayane in various stages of undress, on top of, like, other things. And I'm like, so you're toning down the sexuality, but oh, by the way, here's this bed sheet featuring our main protagonists barely clothed laying on your bed. Good. Good to know. Good to know where our priorities are. You seem to be sending some mixed messages. Your messages seem a little mixed here. And this was where things got very weird. And so ever since then, there'd been this big debate about how toned down Dead or Alive 6 is. And to the point where the poor producer almost seems to be going insane. He's like, can people please talk about the fact that we're making a good fighting game? Which I'm personally like, no, because your game is going to be inferior to Dead or Alive 5. Just in general, there's no tag mode. So it's already half the game Dead or Alive 5 is. It's going to lose so much without tag mode. Tag mode's been in Dead or Alive since Dead or Alive 2. Dead or Alive 6 is the first one to cut tag mode. It's even in the 3DS game. No, I'm not going to relent on that. There's no way Dead or Alive 6 can be better than Dead or Alive 5. But no one's really bringing that up. Way too much focus is put on the fan service, on the women's chests. And because of this, what he's been trying to say is that not only can you turn off the breast physics, but that they will have non-sexualized outfits as their defaults. So that way, Dead or Alive 6 can be played in esports competitions without embarrassment, / ESPN getting on people's cases, because they've been trying to air fighting game tournaments on ESPN. So for tournaments, they could just say physics off, default costumes only, and then there's nothing to be embarrassed about. Friggin' wonderful. And then if you want classic DOA fan service, you could just, unlock the unlockable costumes. Unfortunately, Dead or Alive 6 is confirmed to have the lowest amount of costumes in a Dead or Alive game since, Dead or Alive 3. There's, 5 costumes per female character, 2 costumes per male character tops. So I think one guy has 3 costumes. It's not looking good. There's a bunch of, palette swaps, though. But no, Dead or Alive 6 is, they've already announced, the first season pass and DLC costumes. And this is where EVO Japan comes in. So EVO, big fighting game tournament they started their Japanese division, and in the middle of all this, they decide to have a DOA 6 showcase. And things just get weird here. Because they hire 2 gravure models to get out on stage on skimpy outfits and shake their butts for the camera. And here comes Yohei Shimbori, Mr. We Are Toning Down the Sexuality. And he comes out making grabby hands while dressed as Bayman from Dead or Alive. And he does this bit where the girls act sexy for the camera while he ignores them for Dead or Alive 6. And for the whole thing, he is showing off in detail all of the lewdness in Dead or Alive 6. Zooming in on things, making lewd poses. And I swear if that man wasn't trying to get banned, then he's an idiot. Because yes, eventually the guy in charge of EVO had to cut the American stream. Cut it at the most boring point when he was just doing a Q&A section, but they cut the stream, and he said that they had to preserve their core values. A tweet that got so much backlash that the guy in charge of EVO, Mr. Wizard, deleted the tweet, but not before core values has now become a running joke in the fighting game community. Core values representing fan service, and the discussion surrounding how ludicrously prudish we've gotten thanks to esports. To be blunt, the fighting game community kind of hates esports at this point because they kind of say it's gentrifying fighting games. They're trying to be too presentable, too serious. And it's like, no, screw this crap. And so that was a very interesting stream, and everyone had a good laugh about it. And I'm telling you, that guy was doing that on purpose. There's no way he wasn't trying to be banned. But at the same time, this is such a hard 180 from what he was saying at E3. This is a desperation move. Because right now, Because he realized, oh shoot, Mortal Kombat 11 is coming out around the same time as Dead or Alive 6. Oh shoot, Dragon Ball FighterZ has just announced its next season. Oh shoot, Tekken 7 is getting more characters. Oh shoot, by the way, Arcana Heart is coming to Blaze Blue Cross Tag Battle. Oh shoot, there's a million other fighters all getting tons of hot new content in time for around the same time as Dead or Alive 6's release. It's got hard competition. And the only thing anyone is saying about Dead or Alive 6 is complaining about how toned down the fan service is and how much the director has caved to prudes. So his only course of action, his only way to save Dead or Alive 6 is to get out on stage, show off the lewdest parts of Dead or Alive 6 until he got banned. And it was an embarrassment for everyone involved. It was an embarrassment for Evo. It was an embarrassment for him. It was an embarrassment for the models that he hired. It was an embarrassment for the watchers because this was on the Evo Japan main stage. You got serious fighting games to the left and right of you, and we have this dude jacking around on Dead or Alive 6 and the main stage probably doing more damage to the game than good because he's just turned the game into an utter embarrassment, throwing all of its credibility right in the trash can, and it's a desperation move. This is an act of desperation. There is no two ways about it. And the only thing I have left to ask is, how much of this is going to be in the PS4 version? How much is Sony going to censor the PS4 version? Because they have, as of this past year, been on a censoring spree. It's a good question. Like, I'm seriously thinking of maybe picking up on Xbox or maybe even PC. Because I am starting to lean towards the game, but I am telling you right now, it's a thrown-together game being made in less than a year, and it will unquestionably be inferior to Dead or Alive 5. Period. There is no recovering this. You should have spent more time on it. You should have waited until next console generation. But you didn't. Mistakes were made. Dead or Alive 6 is a mistake. This is a desperate attempt to sell Dead or Alive 6 to some kind of an audience. But you know what would really help, Shimbori? You know what would really help? If there was some way I could actually get those special edition outfits with a physical purchase of the game. Because unfortunately, in North America, they're like, oh, hey, you want the really sexy outfits? Well, you gotta get the digital deluxe edition. Oh, if you buy the actual physical edition, you don't get them. Screw you, I don't buy digital. Not if I can help it. And admittedly, those costumes are kind of the only thing making me want to buy the game. So I don't know. I don't friggin' know. Anyway, that's where I'm at. That's what happened with Dead or Alive 6. What a complete mess. What an embarrassment. Oh boy. I don't even know. Anyway, thanks for joining us this week on GameBabble Live, even though it was less live than I would have liked it to be. Sorry about the uploads of last week's episode being slow once again. Kind of got sick over the weekend. Things have been busy around here. Gonna get those up as soon as I can, along with this episode. Remember, you can hit up the GameBabble Live archives to listen to past episodes. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope that I will be back next week, but I make no guarantees. We'll see what happens. Gotta talk things out. Anyway, stay tuned to the GameBabble YouTube channels for more information. Thank you so much for joining us here on 89.5 FM, KCFV The Wave. Diverse music for your diverse mind. Thank you so much for listening. Time to kick you back to the music. Enjoy, and thank you for joining us here on GameBabble Live. Catch you later.